Hello and welcome to this game review. So in this one, we will talk about time in chess and how important it is to carry out our plans as quickly as possible. And if we see that our plan is very slow, we should probably find a quicker plan. So it started as some Caro-Kann, c5, knight f3, c takes d4, and the queen takes d4. This is some kind of variation. Usually white puts the queen on f4. This is slightly strange, but it's possible. And here black plays e6, and later this bishop became a very big problem, which you mentioned that you saved. But the question arises, why are we even creating the problem? Can we not just put the bishop here, develop the knight here, the pawn to e6? Generally, we should develop pieces with tempo if possible, so this is probably the best move, but bishop f5, I also can't see a problem. We will play e6, knight c6, and we will have a normal French position. e6. Now black develops the knight to g6, and white plays queen e3. Apparently, white should take it and play c4 to open up the position, as black has only one developed piece, and he might get in some trouble after the pawn exchanges in the center. The h file is irrelevant, and the black's king is still in the center, so maybe white is slightly better here. Okay, queen e3, and now b6, so black finds this idea playing b6, a5, and bishop a6. And for the next few moves, black is completely locked into this plan, and this is kind of a problem, as when we're playing chess, on every move we have to re-evaluate the position. This is of course difficult, but on every single move we have to think about what our candidate moves are and what's the best idea. So as we will see, even though the plan positionally is sound, as this bishop is definitely bad, we probably should get rid of it. This is an extremely slow plan, and it will take quite a while to get in motion. So b6, maybe we could have just went here to take this bishop, as it cannot move due to the fork here. So if we take this bishop, then we can very happily put the bishop on this diagonal. Okay, b6, c3, and now a5, so black is continuing his plan. But here black had this small tactic with bishop c5, after which the queen has to go to e2. Then knight f4 is another move with tempo. The queen has to go to f1. And now black has already improved his position significantly with the bishop and the knight having improved. And now at worst case he can take the bishop, then play a5 and develop the bishop here. Or even better is a typical plan for such positions, f6. And we will get rid of this pawn on e5, and then we will push e5 and get the bishop out this way. So this is a very effective way to develop our pieces. So as a general rule, if we can improve our piece with tempo, we should generally do it. So the bishop is definitely better here, knight is definitely better here. But black continues his plan, and now bishop c5. So now black improves, but now after queen e2 we can't really play our bishop a6 move. So if this was our whole plan, we can just do it right now. And it's true that after all this, black's position has improved, as he doesn't have this bishop anymore. But now if we're playing knight b8, this is already a bad sign. We don't really want to go back with our pieces like this, so I think we should avoid such maneuvers at this point, because this just takes way too much time, and we should consider a different idea. I'm not sure if this was considered, but again, f6, trying to get rid of the pawn on e5, develop the queen here, play e5 if possible, and the bishop can come out through this diagonal, as this is one way to develop the bishop in such positions. Knight b8, bishop g5, queen c7, and now all this happened, but now it turns out that our pieces are kind of not very well placed, and white is starting the attack. h4 is a very good move, knight e7, knight g3, so currently we have one defender here and three attackers, potentially four, maybe even more. So the position is actually very, very dangerous. And now black continues to take away defenders from his king. And after this, the attack turns out to be more or less winning. Knight h5 has the idea of simply taking on g7, opening up the king, then putting the bishop on f6, and then the queen can arrive. For example, if something like h6, white can just take it, queen d2, and there's no one stopping checkmate. For example, king h7, we have queen d3 check, and after king here, there's knight f6 and checkmate on the h7. So as you can see, the knight could have really helped, or any of these pieces could have helped in defense. So with this pawn on e5, we shouldn't underestimate white's attacking potential. So h5 instead. Now h6 is a good move to not allow white to play h6. Now black plays something on the queen side, but this is not really effective enough, as these pawns will not really do anything. We need a little bit more drastic measures, and here f6 again could be played, threatening to exchange pieces. At the end, this will also hang, and if white takes, we will double the rooks on the f file. e6 is slightly weak, but we have it covered, and black should be okay. And now a4. Black continues maneuvering, but moves like rook a5 are a bit strange. We should generally try to improve the pieces as much as possible more clearly, because clearly the knight is better on d7 than the rook is on a5. Okay, now b5. And now, after rook d to e1, white has improved his position quite a bit, and black is not really doing much, bishop a7, but this takes away another defender from the king, so white finally sacrifices on h6, and it should be clear that this attack will work out, because white has 4 attackers against 0 defenders around this king, and generally to have a successful attack, we need a 3 to 2 ratio, so 3 attackers, 2 defenders would already be enough for a successful attack, but 4 attackers against 0 defenders gives us no question about whether or not this attack will succeed. So now white is completely winning because of the terribly weak king and our completely discoordinated pieces. Look at the rook on a5, rook f6, queen g5, and here white blunders with knight h4, and black finds the best defensive resource. Here white could have won with a number of different possible forcing moves. For example, h6 threatens queen g7. It's not clear how to deal with this. The pawn might also become a queen. All these pieces are way too far away. For example, if here we can even sacrifice the queen like this, knight takes g5, and this just leads to checkmate, as there are 3 attackers, maybe 4, and 0 defenders. Well, there's this attacker as well, so white will win in a variety of ways from this position. Otherwise, there is also rook takes e6, if we take queen f5, and this ends up in checkmate as well, with a nice knight mate on the board. So there were a lot of winning ways here, all of them forcing moves, but knight h4, it's not clear what the threat is. I guess I'm not really sure what white is trying to do here, but either way, black found the best move, which is queen f4, which exchanges queens straight away, and if the queens are exchanged, the attack is more or less over, and white later collapses quite quickly with knight e5, but here black can just take it, and he has to, and the rook on e1 also drops, and from here black won quite smoothly. So generally I would suggest firstly not playing these correspondence games, as they're not really chess, as there's not really the usual stress of thinking while the clock is running out. So this is more or less playing chess without a clock, which is of course very easy, but it's not really what we're training for. And generally I would suggest kind of not playing these extremely long plans. As bishop a6, this kind of turned out okay, as long as you don't get checkmated, but white has been improving the position quite a bit in the meantime, so it is quite a long plan. So generally I would suggest something simpler, just f6, and the bishop can come out through this diagonal after we've pushed e5. So hopefully this idea is useful, and see you next time.